Have you ever wondered why some relationships seem to make people more alive, while others slowly make them smaller? Two people can begin with the same excitement, the same promises, and the same belief that they have finally found the right person. On their wedding day, they may both be genuinely happy and feel certain that the relationship will last. Then everyday life begins. The early intensity becomes familiarity. Responsibilities appear, people change, and hidden differences become visible. The person who once seemed mysterious becomes predictable, while qualities that once felt charming may begin to feel irritating. At that point, many people ask whether they chose the wrong person, whether love has disappeared, or whether this is simply what happens when two real people try to build a life together. Happiness in a relationship is often described as something we either find or fail to find. We talk about being lucky in love, meeting the right person, or finally finding our perfect match. Luck does matter. Timing, chemistry, and meeting someone who is emotionally available and ready for the same kind of relationship can feel like a fortunate accident. But long-term happiness requires more than luck. It requires knowledge, not only of the other person, but also of yourself. Many people begin dating before they truly understand what they need. They may know what they find attractive and have a list of desired qualities, but those preferences do not necessarily reveal what will make them feel safe, respected, and emotionally alive in a real relationship. You may imagine that you want someone confident, exciting, ambitious, and spontaneous, then discover that unpredictability makes you anxious. You may believe you want a calm and stable person, then realize that too much routine makes you feel emotionally numb. You may want a partner who takes control, only to feel invisible when your preferences are rarely considered. You may value independence, but later discover that closeness requires more openness and cooperation than you expected. This is why self-knowledge matters so much. Before asking whether someone is the right person, it may be useful to ask who you become in a relationship. Do you speak openly when something bothers you, or remain silent to avoid conflict? Do you become controlling when you feel insecure? Do you lose yourself when you admire someone? Do you expect a partner to rescue you from loneliness? Do you need constant reassurance, or become distant when another person gets too close? We often know ourselves in work, friendship, or family roles, but romantic relationships reveal different parts of us. You may be independent in your career and surprisingly dependent in love. You may be calm with friends but intensely jealous with a partner. You may believe you are flexible until another person's needs interfere with your plans. Relationships show us what we do when we feel chosen, threatened, rejected, desired, ignored, admired, or disappointed. Experience can improve our choices. A first serious relationship may be based largely on attraction and hope, while a later one may be chosen with greater awareness. You begin to recognize the difference between confidence and arrogance, mystery and emotional unavailability, kindness and people-pleasing, independence and avoidance, intensity and instability. This does not mean every new relationship will automatically be healthier. People can repeat the same pattern many times. But reflection gives us the possibility of choosing differently. One relationship may teach you that chemistry is not enough. Another may teach you that reliability without emotional connection can also feel empty. One may show you how easily you abandon yourself to keep someone, while another reveals that you are asking one person to meet every need in your life. Every relationship can provide information, even when it does not last. The end of a relationship does not always mean the relationship was a failure. Sometimes two people shared something meaningful, learned from each other, raised children, built a home, supported one another through an important stage, and then changed in different directions. Something can be valuable without lasting forever. We often struggle with this idea because we have been taught that the only successful relationship is one that ends with death. If it ends earlier, we assume someone failed. But people change dramatically over a lifetime. The person you were at 22 may not resemble the person you become at 50. Your ambitions may change, your values may deepen, and your emotional needs may become clearer. Things that once seemed important may become irrelevant, while needs you once ignored may become impossible to dismiss. When two people grow, they do not always grow in the same direction or at the same pace. One person may become more curious, social, ambitious, or emotionally expressive, while the other becomes more private, cautious, or attached to routine. One may want to travel, study, and create a new life, while the other wants stability and familiarity. Neither person has to be wrong, but the relationship may begin holding two increasingly different lives. A lasting relationship does not require both people to remain exactly the same. It requires enough curiosity, flexibility, and communication to keep meeting each other as change happens. Many people assume they know their partner because they have been together for years, but time does not automatically create understanding. You can share a home with someone for 20 years and stop asking meaningful questions after the first 2. You may know how they take their coffee, what time they wake up, and what they watch on television, while knowing very little about what currently frightens them, excites them, disappoints them, or gives their life meaning. A strong relationship is sometimes described as one long conversation. Not one conversation at the beginning, but an ongoing exchange about who you are becoming, what matters to you now, what you miss, and what has changed between you. Without these conversations, two people can continue living together while becoming strangers. Attention is one of the clearest signs that a relationship is still emotionally alive. Do you still care how your partner's day went? Do you notice changes in their mood? Are you curious about what they think? Or do you assume you already know? Indifference rarely arrives dramatically. It often begins quietly. You stop asking, sharing, and noticing. One day of distraction means very little because everyone becomes tired or overwhelmed. But when disinterest becomes the permanent emotional climate of the relationship, it deserves attention. The same is true of boredom. Boredom does not automatically mean love is over. Long-term relationships naturally contain repetition, and the nervous system becomes familiar with what once felt new. A new person is unpredictable, so every message and meeting feels significant. The experience may feel like destiny, but much of it is also biology. Chemistry can create enormous attraction to someone you barely know. You may feel that this person is uniquely right for you before you have seen how they handle money, frustration, conflict, responsibility, or disappointment. Attraction can bring people together, but it can also temporarily reduce judgment. We may excuse behavior that would normally concern us, interpret inconsistency as mystery, confuse jealousy with passion, see control as protection, or mistake emotional intensity for emotional depth. The stronger the chemistry, the more important it may be to slow down and observe reality. Do not evaluate a person only in romantic settings. Notice how they behave when plans fail, when they are tired, when attention is not focused on them, when someone weaker needs patience, when there is practical work to do, when they hear no, when you disagree, or when you succeed. Anyone can appear charming during a beautiful dinner. Character becomes clearer in ordinary and inconvenient situations. This does not mean turning dating into an examination. It means allowing enough reality into the relationship before making major commitments. Talk about important things: money, children, work, family expectations, responsibilities, sex, freedom, loyalty, ambition, health, religion, lifestyle, and what commitment means to each of you. People sometimes avoid these subjects because they fear destroying the romance. But reality does not destroy a healthy relationship. It reveals whether one can be built. Idealization creates another difficulty. Many people search for someone who perfectly matches an image created in their mind. Having preferences is not wrong, but the problem begins when the imagined person becomes more important than the real people we meet. You may reject a kind and emotionally healthy person because they do not fit a minor detail of your fantasy, or choose someone unsuitable because they fit the image perfectly. An impressive profession does not guarantee kindness. Confidence does not guarantee emotional maturity. Beauty does not guarantee loyalty. Charm does not guarantee responsibility. Shared interests do not guarantee shared values. The person who creates a meaningful life with you may look different from the person you expected. This requires both openness and realism. Do not settle for mistreatment simply because perfection does not exist, but do not confuse imperfection with incompatibility. A real partner will have limitations. They will misunderstand you, disappoint you sometimes, have habits you dislike, and need things you do not naturally understand. The question is not whether the person is flawless. The question is whether their flaws are compatible with your well-being and whether both of you are willing to learn. A good relationship often has a powerful effect. Both people begin liking themselves more. They feel more capable, interesting, confident, and alive because the relationship creates space for growth. The other person sees something in you and encourages it. They do not compete with every success, punish your independence, or require you to become smaller so they can feel secure. At the same time, a healthy relationship should not make one person responsible for the other's identity. You should be able to like yourself not only because your partner likes you. The relationship can support your growth, but it should not become the only place where your value exists. This is especially important because relationships can end. People sometimes remain in unhappy situations because ending the relationship would not only mean losing the partner, it would mean losing their home, financial security, social identity, daily structure, friendships, status, or sense of purpose. They may say, "You took my life away," when what they mean is that their life became completely dependent on the relationship. Maintaining some emotional, practical, and financial independence is not a sign that you expect the relationship to fail. It is a form of adult stability. Have your own abilities, relationships, and understanding of who you are. Love can be deep without requiring helplessness. You can build a shared life while remaining a complete person. A healthier relationship is one in which both people can honestly say, "I choose you, but I do not disappear inside you." This becomes especially important when separation is considered. Not every relationship should be preserved. Sometimes people are encouraged to carry emotional suffering as though endurance were proof of moral strength. They are told that life is hard, relationships require sacrifice, and they should continue carrying the burden. But not every burden deserves to be carried forever. There is a difference between working through difficulty and remaining in a relationship that repeatedly destroys your dignity, emotional safety, or sense of self. A relationship may deserve repair when there is still respect, concern, honesty, and mutual willingness. Even serious problems can sometimes be addressed when both people acknowledge them and participate in change. But one person cannot create a healthy relationship alone. If one person says, "We are disconnected, and I want us to work on this," while the other says, "Everything is fine, and I will not discuss it," the relationship remains stuck. The options may eventually become limited: acceptance, professional support, significant restructuring, or separation. Divorce is not always a moral catastrophe. It can be painful, complicated, financially difficult, and emotionally disorienting. It affects families and requires responsibility, especially when children are involved. But remaining together is not automatically better for children if the home is filled with hostility, contempt, fear, or emotional coldness. Children sense the emotional atmosphere between adults long before they understand the details. They notice tension, silence, raised voices, and withdrawal. They can feel unsafe even when both parents remain in the same home. A respectful separation may sometimes create more stability than a hostile marriage. What matters is how adults handle it. Children should not be forced to choose sides, used as messengers, or turned into emotional caretakers. The romantic relationship may end, but responsibility for the children does not. Mature separation asks how two people can stop being partners without becoming enemies, preserve what was good, protect the children, divide responsibilities fairly, and allow each other to build another life. This is much easier when both people have stable self-worth. A deeply insecure person may experience separation not only as loss, but as humiliation and destruction of identity. They may want revenge, control, or punishment because they cannot tolerate being left. This is why character matters not only when choosing someone to marry, but also when imagining how they behave during conflict and loss. Observe how a person talks about former partners. Are all previous partners described as evil, unstable, or ungrateful? Do they accept any responsibility? Can they tolerate rejection? Can they disagree without trying to destroy the other person? How someone ends a relationship can reveal as much as how they begin one. A mature person understands that a relationship can end without erasing its entire value. They may be able to say, "We were good together for a time. We changed. We hurt each other, but I do not need to destroy you." Not every separation can be peaceful. Some relationships involve abuse, betrayal, danger, or circumstances that require firm distance. But when respectful separation is possible, it can prevent unnecessary suffering. There is another misunderstanding about happiness in relationships. Many people believe happiness means maintaining the emotional intensity of the beginning forever. They expect constant excitement, desire, romance, and fascination. When those feelings become quieter, they assume something has gone wrong. But chemistry naturally changes. The nervous system adapts to repeated experiences. What once created a powerful reaction becomes familiar. This does not mean intimacy must disappear. It means intimacy may need intention. Couples sometimes wait passively for desire, closeness, or excitement to return on its own. But long-term connection often requires participation. Talk about what creates pleasure. Introduce new experiences. Spend time away from routine. Learn something together. Pay attention to touch and create anticipation. Do not expect your partner to carry the entire responsibility for keeping the relationship alive. Ask what you bring, what you initiate, whether you still show interest, create warmth, and suggest change, or only complain that nothing changes. Happiness in a relationship is not only something another person gives you, it is also something you help create. This does not mean blaming yourself when a relationship is unhealthy. It means recognizing your influence where influence exists. If both people feel bored, they can acknowledge it and act. If one person needs more closeness, they can explain what closeness means. If the sexual relationship has changed, both can discuss it without shame or accusation. If daily life has become mechanical, they can create new rituals. A relationship often suffers not because the problem is impossible, but because no one names it until resentment has already become deep. Honest conversation does not have to be cruel. Not every thought needs to be released exactly as it appears. People sometimes defend hurtful speech by saying, "I am just being honest." But honesty without care can become aggression. Before saying something difficult, ask whether it is true, necessary, and possible to express respectfully. Will it help you understand the problem, or are you simply discharging anger? You can say, "I feel distant from you, and I miss us," instead of, "You have become boring." You can say, "I need more shared responsibility," instead of, "You are completely useless." The goal is not to avoid discomfort. It is to communicate in a way that makes repair possible. Sometimes the most mature response is to pause. Strong emotion can create certainty that disappears a few hours later. You become angry and immediately want to end the relationship, send a message, expose a secret, or say something irreversible. But urgency is not always wisdom. Give the situation time to settle. Ask what will happen after the immediate emotional release. Will the conversation improve anything, or only create another wound? This does not mean silencing yourself permanently. It means choosing the right time, language, and intention. Self-knowledge helps here too. Some people need more emotional intensity, while others genuinely prefer stability and routine. One person wants spontaneous plans, travel, and novelty. Another feels happiest knowing what tomorrow will look like. Neither style is automatically better, but people need to know what kind of life suits them. Someone who needs emotional warmth, conversation, and novelty may suffer deeply with a partner who wants minimal change and very little emotional exchange. Someone who needs peace may feel overwhelmed by a partner who turns every day into a new adventure. Compatibility is not only about values and attraction, it is also about emotional temperature. How much stimulation, freedom, closeness, routine, conversation, and solitude do you need? There is no universal recipe for the perfect relationship because people differ too much. Some couples enjoy doing nearly everything together. Others are happiest with separate interests and a strong shared home. Some divide responsibilities equally, while others prefer one person to lead in certain areas. The important question is not whether the relationship matches an outside ideal. It is whether both people understand the arrangement, choose it freely, and feel respected inside it. Happiness is not the same as resignation. There is a difference between appreciating what you have and convincing yourself that you should accept what makes you miserable. Be grateful should not become an instruction to remain in emotional pain. A useful principle may be to enjoy what you have instead of constantly suffering over what you lack. But enjoyment matters, not passive endurance. If something in your life brings no joy, safety, meaning, or possibility of repair, you are allowed to question whether it still belongs there. At the same time, constantly focusing on what is missing can make even a good relationship feel empty. You may have a loyal and kind partner but remain obsessed with the fact that they are not more romantic. You may have emotional safety but envy someone else's public excitement. You may overlook years of reliability because you are comparing your relationship to carefully edited images. There will always be something another couple appears to have. More passion, money, travel, shared interests, or visible affection. If you build happiness through comparison, your relationship will always be losing to someone. A better question is, what do we genuinely have? Do we enjoy each other? Can we speak honestly? Do we support one another's growth? Is there tenderness, respect, humor, and interest? Can we solve problems, remain ourselves, and choose each other from freedom rather than fear? Happiness in a relationship is not one permanent feeling. It is made from many elements: safety, interest, pleasure, friendship, attraction, responsibility, freedom, shared experiences, and the ability to repair and change. Sometimes happiness means staying and learning to see your partner more clearly. Sometimes it means creating something new together. Sometimes it means accepting that the relationship is quieter than it once was, but still deeply valuable. And sometimes it means recognizing that love is no longer enough to justify the life you are living. There is no shame in discovering that you have changed or admitting that a choice made years ago no longer fits who you have become. But before leaving, it may be worth asking whether the relationship is truly finished or simply unattended. Have you spoken honestly? Have both of you tried? Is there still goodwill and curiosity? Can you imagine building something new with the same person rather than searching immediately for a new one? Sometimes what appears to be the end of love is the end of one version of the relationship. A different version may still be possible. Other times, the most honest and compassionate decision is to stop forcing two lives to remain joined. The purpose of a relationship is not simply to remain together. It is to create a life in which both people can experience dignity, connection, growth, and some genuine form of happiness. A good relationship does not require you to carry a burden simply because someone told you that love must be difficult. It may require effort, patience, compromise, and courage. But it should also contain warmth, interest, moments of ease, and the feeling that the person beside you adds something meaningful to your existence. Perhaps happiness is not something a partner delivers to you. Perhaps it is something two people learn to create, protect, and sometimes release when it can no longer grow. What do you believe matters most in a happy relationship? Chemistry, compatibility, communication, shared growth, or knowing yourself before choosing someone? Share your thoughts in the comments without revealing anything you would prefer to keep private. And if you enjoy calm, thoughtful videos about psychology, love, relationships, emotional patterns, and personal growth, subscribe to the channel for more.